Hello. Hi, beautiful filmmakers and screenwriters. How are you today? I hope you're well. I almost didn't make it here today. My mom had a fall yesterday and she actually broke her hip, so she had surgery this morning and I was kind of like, "Oh, I'm not going to go on and do my live today," but then I'm here at home anyway because I have a toddler and he is asleep. He's nearly 2. So he's having his nap, so I'm sitting here and I just thought, well, what am I going to do with an hour? And I thought I might as well go online and do this. So it's kind of a weird day though, and it just makes me think, that when things like this happen. I was just saying how my mom is in hospital. She just had to have a surgery this morning, unexpected. She had a fall yesterday. And it just makes you think, and it always reminds you. And I think this is such an important message for screenwriters and for filmmakers. Look after your health. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. And when these kind of things happen, it really reminds you of what is important. And the only thing that really matters is your good health and the good health of your loved ones, and your loved ones and their well-being. So it's always worth like checking into that and remembering that. And I think for a lot of screenwriters and filmmakers especially, like we often, like all entrepreneurs, because I think screenwriters and filmmakers are entrepreneurs. We're so busy, getting shit done and doing all that often we don't prioritize our own health. It sort of becomes something less important, because we just don't have time. We don't have time to go to the gym, or we don't have time to nourish ourselves, our mental lives as well, our mental health. And it's just so important. So I just wanted to start with that. Today on Filmmaker to Filmmaker, I have a message. It was really interesting. I got a couple of questions sent in last week, but they were all things that I'd really answered before that I just sort of felt, oh, well, check out this video or that one. And if you don't know, I do put these up on YouTube. So there's quite a collection of them now, and quite a lot of things have been covered. And so I was kind of like, oh, maybe all the questions have been answered. Maybe there are no more questions. And just then, that would be so weird, right? Just then, though, last night I received a message from a screenwriter, and I went, oh, I haven't answered that, and that is a really good and important question. Now, she wrote to me. She's quite an experienced screenwriter. She's written a lot of screenplays, and I actually follow her on Instagram, and I think she's amazing. So there's that. She wrote, I'll get to my point. I wondered if, in your experience, it's wiser for a screenwriter to also direct, to make that film and get it out there and show the world their vision. So, in essence, the question we're asking is, should a screenwriter also direct? Should you direct your own film? And she goes on to say she's done well in some screenwriting competitions, and she'd consider entering more, but she's not sure if she should be just trying to find an agent or manager or so forth and sell her work, or if she should be going down the route of making something herself. And obviously, though, she says she doesn't exactly say it, but she kind of says that kind of scares her because she has no idea how she would do it. She has no idea. So let's talk about this. Should you, if you're a screenwriter, direct your own movie? If any of you know my story at all, you'll kind of know what my answer would be, which is, of course you bloody well should. Are you kidding me? If you feel any calling to direct, you should direct. Even if it scares the shit out of you, even if you think you have no right to do it, even if you think, who am I? All those things. Doesn't matter. If you feel the calling to direct your movie, you should direct your movie, okay? And no more excuses. So the first thing really for those screenwriters to do, I think it's just to sit and to get quiet and to ask yourself, do I want to direct? And if there's any impulse that says yes, then you're gonna do it. Okay? That's it. No getting off the hook. If on the other hand you are like 100%, there's no world. There's like, I have no desire to do, like none, zero, zip. You couldn't pay me enough money. I just don't want to do it, right? Then don't do it. Okay, so we're going to talk about these two avenues. But if you feel even an inkling of calling towards it, then I say you should do it. Okay, so and I say this because I know for myself, like actually the first couple of things that I wrote, I would not have considered directing. There's no world in which I would have directed them. I was like, I know there's somebody out there in the world who could do it better than me, and I don't feel qualified to do it in any way. Then I wrote a script that really was like mine, and I'd been through the process enough. I'd been around enough. Like I'd sat with meetings with directors who were going to direct my scripts and stuff to sort of like feel like, I don't know, when I wrote this one script and it became my first film that I directed, Obsoletia, like I just immediately was like, there's no one who could do this better than me. Like literally. And it's not arrogance. It's not that because I think I'm the best director in the world, but because this is me. This is like, it's totally my heart. And if I give it to somebody else to direct, they're going to want to change it, right? Because that's what directors do, you know, like directors, and it's right that they do that. They have to own it. They have to make it theirs. So with this film Obsoletia, I had a total vision of what I wanted it to be. I knew it. I just knew it. I knew the whole film. You know, I knew it. And I just felt like if I gave it to somebody else, the film would not be what it was meant to be. Right? You know, it would get changed into something else. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I think this is one of the things. If you are a screenwriter and you are thinking about, you're starting to think about, maybe I should direct a film, you know, write something or choose a script you already have that you feel absolutely unequivocally, you know, there's just like a sense is yours, you know, like it's like this is totally your voice, and it couldn't really, in a way, no one else could do it as well as you, because no one would ever quite understand it the way you would. So that would be my first sort of thing. You might have other scripts in your sort of arsenal that, you know, that you don't feel that attached to in a personal way. And if you don't feel as attached to them in a personal way, like you'd be quite happy if someone else did it, then, you know, like continue to, you know, try to get those sold. But any of those scripts that just feel like this is, you know, this is your baby, then go for it. So let's just talk about, if you're not feeling called to direct, like you just go, actually, I am just saying this because I think in a cynical way this would promote my career, but it's not really what I want to do. And I am, anyone who sort of follows me and what I talk about, the number one thing I will say is don't get involved in means for ends, you know? Like don't do something to get a different kind of result. Does that make sense? So don't direct a movie because you think that that's the way to further your career, but you don't really want to direct. Direct because you want to direct. You know, if you are absolutely just like, no, I just want to write scripts and sell them, write scripts and focus on selling them. You know, don't get involved in trying to direct so that you can write scripts and sell them. It's silly. So if you don't feel the calling, don't do it. Now, if you are wanting to just then write and sell, if you just like, you get quiet and you decide, I don't want to direct, it's not my thing. You, in your email to me, you said, would it be better to look directly for a manager? In the US, I hear agents won't look at you until you've done most of the work, found some success, or come recommended. Okay, and so my take on this is, yes, you're more likely to get a manager than an agent if you don't have any work produced yet. And so I would totally agree that you would be seeking an agent. And I think it is kind of a waste of time to query, you know, to be querying agents if you haven't had anything produced yet. Or don't have any sort of like, you know, any particular leads or big recommendation. So I would be aiming to get a manager. The other thing though is to sell it directly to a production company, because your goal here is to get something made. You know, if you get something made, then the agents and the managers will be coming after you. You know, that's how it works. When you haven't had anything made, you know, like you're yet another aspiring screenwriter at this point, you know? And so it's like, how do you break through that? You get something made. So how do you get something made? You sell something to a producer or to a production company. And so I would be looking, you know, very carefully also for collaborators like that, not just a manager, you know, and I think like looking for a manager is a legit thing to do as well, you know, and, you know, because they can definitely make connections for you. But I would also be looking at my work and thinking, okay, who would be the ideal collaborators for this? Who would be the ideal production company? Who would be the ideal producers? Who would be the ideal directors, you know? And even reaching out to directors. All those kinds of different, like looking at the different aspects. You could even be thinking about actors. You know, lots of actors have their own production company. So there's like so many different ways to come at this. But like, you know, looking at one of your scripts and just like really like making a map of who all the ideal collaborators would be, and then going after all those people. Get on your IMDb Pro, research, and go after them. You know, and you can sell work without an agent or manager. Everyone seems to think you have to have an agent or manager. You don't, you know, and my own experience, like I sold my first screenplay and worked for 3 years as a screenwriter, getting paid real money without an agent or a manager. You know, it is possible to do. So I would say to you, don't just think about managers, also think about production companies, and also think about ways to get it to producers, directors, and potential creative collaborators who could help it get traction and help it get made, because your single goal is to get something made. That's like got to be the target. It's not, you know, like the target is not getting a manager. You know, the target is getting a movie made. So now you've got something like real. Not that screenplays aren't real, but you know what I mean. So So that's that, so if you're writing and wanting to sell your work and you're just on that track and you're like, I don't want to direct, then that's that. Again, though, back to the whole thing of should you direct, and I just go, if you feel that calling at all, and like you who are watching it right now and you're sitting there going, do I feel the calling? Yeah, like I do want to make a movie. Do it. 2 words. And I know it's terrifying. I know that you can immediately be like, because we sort of think we have to earn the director's chair. We have to, like work on a million sets in order to, have the rights to direct a movie, or we have to do 20 shorts or whatever. Like I would just like to say there are no conditions. You don't have to do any of those things in order to direct a feature. I did none of them. I had not directed a short. I didn't go to film school. I didn't work on other sets. I did not do any of those things. And I directed my feature, and it went into Sundance, and it won 2 awards, okay? So you don't have to do any of those things. You can if you want to. And again, it's that thing about, ends and means, right? Like if you want to work on other sets, that's awesome. Work on other sets, If you want to make shorts, that's awesome. But if you feel a calling to direct a feature, make no apology for it, make it happen, okay? And you can do that, and you don't need permission, and you don't have to prove yourself before that, okay? So that's that. I just go with the whole thing of like, should you direct a movie? I'm like, you can't lose, right? Here's the deal for this screenwriter who wrote to me and saying, I'm wondering, should I do this? I'm like, I always say the worst case scenario, if you pull it together and you make your feature, the worst thing that happens is you don't make a very good one, right? That is like ultimately the worst case scenario, and it's really not that bad, okay? Like you'll survive, you will live. And the best case scenario is, like everything will change for you. Like you will grow, you will evolve, you will learn, you will be a better screenwriter. Your career might go off to a whole new level, like you won't lose. Like you will gain so much. Even in the worst case scenario, you gain so much, because even in the worst case scenario, like you make a crappy film, you will be like, you'll learn and grow so much. Like I swear to God, when I made my first movie, before it got into Sundance, so I'd made this film and it was this weird quirky ass movie, right? And I remember sitting watching it and I would think, okay, this is probably never going to get seen anywhere. And I was still like, this is the best experience of my life. Like actually making this film is just the best experience of my entire life. Going through this process of writing something, pulling it together, making it happen, doing it, showing up to set the first day without a freaking clue of what I was doing, really. I mean, I remember the sound guy handed me, he was like, do you want your, I don't even know the correct word for headphones. I'm like, so he's like, do you want the headphones? And I was like, why would I want those? I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I let the first AD, I was like, can you say cut and action? Because I don't know when to say them. I mean, it was really like that. But it was okay. I learned, by the end of the shoot, I knew what I was doing, It's how it's how you do it. So if you feel the calling, do it. Another aspect of this is many of us screenwriters, of course, we are like, we're visionaries, we're writers, we have the whole idea, we have the whole vision for the movie. Now, ultimately, of course, in filmmaking, as you will be well aware of, the director is considered to be the auteur of the film. Hence, we always know the director of the film, and we sort of think of them as being the writer of it, even though they didn't write it often. And we often don't even know the screenwriter of like some of our favorite movies. I do this all the time. I'll be like, I know who directed that, but who actually wrote it, Like, so weird. So, and, if you really have a vision, like, because the brute fact of the film industry is if you, like, write scripts and sell them, you will probably not have much say in how they turn out, And it might be great anyway, you might have fantastic collaborators, but you also might not, So I just go, like, it's that thing of, like, if you feel that sort of, like, you really want to have the experience of creating something, the whole vision, and being like, being the visionary for the movie, being the one who pushes forward a vision, become the director, because that's when you get to do it. You get to choose, and you get to make the choices and make the decisions and actually craft the look of the film. There's one last thing I want to say about this thing of should screenwriters direct, and just about like if it's a good idea for your career. And it's something I've mentioned before, but I went to the Sundance Screenwriters Lab, and I was kind of astonished, and I got in there after I had made my first feature. Someone's asking about funding. I'll get to that in a minute. okay? Because this screenwriter also actually asked me about sort of funding. So Sundance Screenwriters Lab. So I got in there after I'd actually made my first feature, okay, and so I'd written and directed a movie that had been at the Sundance Film Festival and won 2 awards, and then I got into the Screenwriters Lab, and I had tried to get in the Screenwriters Lab. If anyone knows my story, I tried to get in for years. You know, that was like a major goal of mine, and I had been, you know, submitting scripts every year for years. And so it was like major win. But something that was like really surprising to me when I got there was that everybody that year, and I don't know if this is typical, but I think it kind of is, everyone that year in the Screenwriters Lab was also a director, or they were part of a team of writers where one of them was the director. Okay? So there wasn't a single person at the Sundance Screenwriters Lab who was just a screenwriter. You know, if that makes sense. Like they were all, and I found it kind of weird because I was like, this is the Screenwriters Lab, right? And they're actually all writer directors, or they were in a team with another writer who was also a director. So it's just like food for thought, you know, just in that thing like, oh, like, is it worth me just you know, I just go, for some reason in our industry, like directors are like considered much more, you know, like higher status somehow than writers. Like, you know, there's tons of jokes about that, about like how writers are so disregarded and disrespected and everything. And it is kind of true. And I think there is a stance for, you know, if you really want to power forward your career as a writer, it can be worth considering, if you feel the calling, like to direct your own movie, to just go ahead and do that. So somebody here just asked the question about funding, and this screenwriter also said it, because one of the things she said was, anyway, anytime I think about making a film now, I think about the money and how am I going to get enough to make a movie, especially a feature. And of course, this is something that comes up, you know, for anyone who's sort of like, okay, it's all fine and well to say, yeah, go direct your movie, but how the F am I going to get the money, right? So I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I think I've probably already done a video about raising funding. I've also, in my book, Shoot from the Heart, there's a ton of advice. I mean, half the book is literally about how to make a package to raise money and how to raise money and who to raise money from and all that. And I just go, like, there are ways, and my suggestion is really getting a mix of crowdfunding money and then also private equity, and raising private equity from multiple sources, so smaller amounts, maybe, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 from a few different people. And obviously with this kind of film, what I'm proposing then, if you're going down this route, is, you know, a micro budget film. You know, it's not going to be a huge budget movie. My sort of goal with these things, and I've talked about this a lot, and sort of why, you know, I want everyone to get paid. You know, like there needs to be a basic level of competence in the production, or there's no point to me, you know, all that stuff. So I feel like it needs, like, I personally have never been able to figure out how to do it for less than like $150,000. My first one was 140, but if you can, then awesome. But there are many, many ways to raise the money, and I think this is one of the things, like, when you make that switch in your head, you will figure it out. Like, when you decide, and it's up to you to decide, like, if you go, I'm going to direct this movie, you know, you have two choices. You can go down a conventional route for raising finance and go after bigger money, or you just say, I am going to get this money and I'm going to raise it myself and I'm going to make it happen on my own terms and in my own time. And once you make that decision, it's unequivocal and you make it happen. And I'm not saying it's easy, you know, and I coach people through this process all the time. And, you know, and there are so many ups and downs, and it's a roller coaster and all that shit. It's never going to be simple and easy, or maybe it will, I don't know. But it's totally possible, okay? So if you are looking for guidance about raising finance, one, I'm sure that I have done a video on this before, so check out my YouTube channel, but also check out my book, Shoot from the Heart. It is available on Amazon, and it will guide you through the whole process if you decide to actually make a film on yourself. There's also, I do a course, the Shoot from the Heart filmmaking course. We've just wrapped up one session, and we're going to be opening registration again, I think in September. So you can look out for that, and that will guide you through that process too, you know, and you will get like support from me through it. You'll be coached through it, the actual, you know, creating a package to raise finance, then raising finance, and how you do all that. And I've got a whole bunch of students who've just coming through that, and I'm so proud of them. So I think that's it. I think that's wrapped up. So to this filmmaker who wrote to me, hell yes. And I just feel you especially, I really do feel that you are a visionary, and I really do feel that you should be directing a feature. And so I'm just going to say, get rid of your fears, put them to the side, you know, and figure it out. If you can get your hands on a copy of my book, I totally recommend it. And not because it's my book, but because it gives you, like, I think a blueprint for how it's possible to do in a really doable way that doesn't rely on sort of the conventional gatekeepers and the conventional paths, you know, but it's totally self-starting, and that you can make it happen, you know, and that's what it's all about. So grab yourself a copy of that. And if you really don't feel the calling, then don't. But I just go, if you don't feel the calling to direct and you are just going down the path of the screenwriter, you know, do be absolutely relentless in trying to sell your stuff. You know, there comes a point where it's like, don't just sit there, you know, oh, well, I tried to get it to this manager, now I give up. You know, you got to be more relentless and more proactive than that. And I just go, really think about the creative collaborators, possible creative collaborators, and go after them. And I am going to be launching a course soon about that, about selling your screenplay, because I have a ton of advice about that and how to make it happen. That's not just, you know, do competitions, which everyone seems to think that's the be all and end all these days. I don't know what that is. I did enter one. I entered the Nichols, but I didn't get placed. I think I got quarterfinals or something. But anyway, you guys, I hope you have had, I hope this has been helpful. And I hope you're all well. And thank you, John. Somebody said, I hope your mum gets better. I hope so too. She will. If you weren't here at the beginning, my mum had to fall yesterday and broke her hip. So she had a surgery this morning. But I'm here at the moment because my toddler is having his nap. So I'm stuck at home. And then I'm going to be going back to the hospital. And once again, though, just as a reminder to everybody, look after yourselves. Look after your loved ones. Make sure that even as you are plowing ahead on your path with writing and creating films, that you find the time and prioritize looking after your own health too. It's so important. And thank you, Amy. Said your book is fantastic. I recommend it. Thank you. It's totally, I just think it's like the book that I would have loved to have had, because it's just actually the real stuff. I mean, it's like how I actually did it. Everything that I share is like, you know, to me, it's like, it's what I've experienced. There's nothing that's theory. It's not conventional often, but it does work, or it has worked for me in the past. And thank you, Sabrina. Thanks for the nice thoughts from my mom. I know she'll get through this. She'll get through this. All right, you guys, happy Monday. Have an awesome day. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.